Welcome back to another episode of The Top Step. My name is Rowland-Smith. Now, on this episode, I'm so lucky to be joined by someone who has meant so much to me in my broadcasting career, and it's a pleasure any chance I get to sit alongside him in the booth. He is the one and only, the voice of the Mariners, Mr. Rick Rizzs. Now, if you're a Mariners fan, you love this guy, you get a chance to hear him every night as he paints that picture of the action through the airwaves. He is truly one of the game's greats. Now, I started this podcast and called it The Top Step because my favorite memories playing in the major leagues was standing on that top step of the dugout with teammates and friends, hearing their story and being inspired by their journey. As for Rick, the journey started as a 12-year-old, pretending he was doing play-by-play for the Cubs in a basement in Chicago. Now, he was able to survive the grueling gauntlet of the minor leagues, 8 years of it, before he finally got his shot to be a major league play-by-play announcer. And not only that, got to sit alongside a legend, the one and only Dave Niehaus. I was dying to know about his relationship with Dave, what he meant to him as a mentor and a dear friend. Some of the times and memories they shared together. I also want to know what drives him to bring the same passion to the booth day in and day out, 162 games in a season, every single day, 45 years into this. I hope you enjoy this episode as Rick Rizzs joins me on The Top Step.
No matter what happens, Rowland-Smith has something to tell his grandkids right here.
Here comes the 1-2 pitch to Junior now. The breaking ball. He struck him out. Yeah, that will be a story for the rest of his life as he strikes out Ken Griffey Jr. and the inning is over.
All right, so yesterday we're over at Tempe playing the Angels. Used to be the Mariners complex, right? And about the third inning, you started talking about your first year, 1983, with the Mariners, right? At that complex, at was it the Diablo Stadium?
It was
back
Diablo
then?
Stadium.
Okay,
Yeah.
And great story, and obviously, we didn't have enough time to dive into your first year. But what was amazing to me was the fact that you basically went around the field, from the outfield, infield, talked about the roster like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And there's been times too, getting to be around you the last couple of years in a broadcast booth. I've brought up stories from random years. I know that's your first year, but I've brought up stories from 2008, 2007. You can remember them like yesterday.
Yeah.
Where does that come from, do you think, for you?
Well, when you live something and that something makes such an impact on your life, like getting to the big leagues, as you experienced as a pitcher in the big leagues, you just remember those things. I spent 8 years in the minor leagues and finally got to the big leagues in 1983. So I remember going to Tempe, Arizona, where the Mariners trained from 1977 up until 1992, and that was such an impact. And now I'm in the big leagues after 8 years in the minor leagues, riding the buses for 6 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 14, 18 hours from Memphis to Orlando, Florida. And I just remember like it was yesterday, and I can, when we were talking on the air, I just can look out on the field and see Bud Bulling and Rick Sweet behind home plate, Pat Putnam and Kenny Phelps over at first base, Julio Cruz at second, Todd Cruz at short, Dave Edler and Jamie Allen at third base, Gaylord Perry and Glenn Abbott on the mound, Bill Caudle coming out of the bullpen, Dave Henderson in center field, Al Cowens in right field, Richie Zisk as our DH. Those things made such an impression to me to finally be in the big leagues that, it's been a long time, but it's sometimes, Ryan, it feels like it just happened yesterday, and I could still see all those guys out there.
So even years later, do you still, going back to playing the Angels yesterday, walking into that place?
Yeah.
Do you ever have those moments where you're sitting there going, man, why was it me? Why was it me who got to do this, and sort of pinch yourself and say, this is amazing what I've been able to do? Yeah.
No, I've been living my dream. You're looking at, one of the luckiest guys on the face of the earth. I put in the work, but the good Lord has blessed me, with the ability to do this. This is something that I wanted to do ever since I was 12 years old, and we can talk about that. But, I just been very fortunate because there's only 30 Major League ball clubs. There's only 60 radio jobs, 60 TV jobs. So I have never, ever taken for granted 1 second what I do. I love it. I hope it comes through the radio. 45 years of this, 8 years in the minor leagues and 38 years in the big leagues, 35 with the Mariners, 3 with the Tigers. I just love what I do, and I appreciate every moment.
So you said when you were 12, this is what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So you're a Cubs fan growing up in
And White Sox fan.
A White Sox
I was
fan.
both.
Yeah,
Okay. As a kid.
But when you were 12, so you're saying this is what you wanted to do since you. So it wasn't you were watching baseball saying, "Man, I want to play," or heading out to the ballpark and saying, "I want to be a player." You knew this when you were 12 years old.
Yeah, when I was 12 years old, Ryan, I really, I wanted to be in the next Louis Aparicio, like all kids. They want to be a major league player, and I did. I could play in high school. I walked down, made the college baseball team at Southern Illinois. But also in the back of my mind, I loved listening to the radio, to the Cub broadcasters, Vince Lloyd and Lou Boudreau and Jimmy West, and Jack Brickhouse was my hero, Bob Elson for the Chicago White Sox. I had the best of both worlds growing up. When I came home from school, my mother was the biggest Cub fan in the world. She had the game on almost every day. When I was a kid, I used to feign an illness so I could watch the game opening day. I did that for about 3-4 years. Then my mother got onto it. She said, "You're going to school." But I remember watching the game on TV with her, and then eventually, and also on the radio.
Yeah.
And I loved the voices coming out of the radio because those guys made me feel like I was at the ball game and I could see the game on the radio, and that's what I hope that I do now, for the fans in the Northwest. But when I would come home from school, Ryan, I would go downstairs and turn on the Cub game and turn down the sound and pretend I was Jack Brickhouse. So I'd be downstairs doing the play-by-play, and the bases are loaded, and here's Ernie Banks swinging a drive deep to left field. Hey, Ernie Banks with a grand slam home run. My mother goes, "What are you doing down there, Ricky?" I said, "Mom, I'm busy. Ernie is just at a home run, a grand slam." So when
did you feel like you sounded good back then?
Oh, heck no. I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And so when I was 12, I wrote Jack Brickhouse a letter. And I said, "Dear Mr. Brickhouse, my name is Rick Rizzs. I live in Chicago. I said, I want to be a major league broadcaster just like you. How do I do it?" Excuse me. And he wrote me back this letter. And I had it for years. And he told me what you would tell any 12-year-old kid. Work hard, believe in yourself, eat your vegetables. I made that up. But he wrote me back this letter. And I kept it for years. And Ryan, I wish I knew where it was with all the moves in baseball. I had it for a long time. I don't have it. But because of that letter, it gave me inspiration and hope that maybe that I could do this. And kids in this country, we need hope. That you can do whatever it is you want to do. There's only one person that can stop you, and that's yourself. And I was fortunate. I did it.
It's funny you said that because I feel like any 12-year-old, I remember when I was 12, I'm like, I'm going to play in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, but there's a lot of kids that say that. But when you go 13, 14, something happens. I think even more now so.
Yeah.
Kids are exposed to so much more now
to
tell them, no, sorry, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's exceptional. You can't do that. So from 12 to the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, with so much that goes on as a teenage kid, was there ever that, I guess this is not going to happen? Or was always that laser focus like, no, this is what I'm doing?
No. I wanted to be Louis Aparicio, and when I was in high school, I played in high schools, like I said, and I walked on. I made the team in college at Southern Illinois. I was on the junior varsity team for 3 years, and when I got to my freshman year and I saw a slider, I mean a really good slider, went, whoa, what's this? Right. And I knew my abilities. I knew I wasn't going to play in the big leagues. I walked on to make the baseball team at Southern Illinois. To this day, Itchy Jones, my head coach at Southern Illinois, we are dear friends. He comes up to Chicago, spends the day with me when he comes up there. But I knew, I wasn't going to get signed or drafted or anything. These kids were a heck of a lot better than I was. So I really got focused on broadcasting. That's why I went to school.
But that's kind of my point. Like, you see that slider for the first time, you're like, oh, okay, man, these kids are better than me. Or I'm not. Like you start doubting your ability, right? Whether it's baseball, whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, the same thing has to happen broadcasting wise, right? In a sense, no kid has got that, that laser focus. Say, no, I'm going to be the best here and take one of those 30 major league jobs.
Yeah. At that time, I wanted to be a major league broadcaster. I knew the baseball thing wasn't going to happen, but I was very focused on my career. I wanted to do this ever since I was a kid, like I talked about. And the best thing that ever happened to me, I became, after I stopped playing, I got a job as the sports director at a local ABC affiliate in Carbondale, Illinois, the home of Southern Illinois University. And I had a chance to do play-by-play for SIU football and basketball, and I talked them into doing baseball, and that's what I wanted to do. They had a 15-minute sports show Monday through Friday, and I got paid for it too, a couple dollars an hour, whatever it was. But the best thing that ever happened to me was I knew it was going to be tough, but for some reason, I don't know why I did this, Ryan, I gave myself 10 years. I gave myself time. I don't know why I did it, but I'm glad I did. It took me 8 years in the minor leagues. If I gave myself 1 year, I would have never made it. 4 years, never made it. 7 years, I would have never made it. But after 8 years, Dave Niehaus and the Mariners liked my tape, and I got my first big league opportunity. But time was the biggest thing. I invested in myself, and that's why I think I'm here today.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because I was down at the winter meetings in December, and they have these, in the convention center, they have trade expos and stuff. And one of the things is broadcasting and this and that. But you walk around that major league lobby and you see a lot of young kids, fresh out of college or college kids. They're dressed nice. They got their business card,
big smile on their face.
They got their visitor, pass on the whole thing. And some of them walked up to me and said, "Oh, hey, I'm from the Northwest. Can you help me out?" And I always tell them, "Look, I'm a little bit different boat, because I got extremely lucky because I was playing and I got a chance to come and do some things with the team that I came up with. But some of them, I feel like maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. But when you have a conversation with them, you say, well, you don't have to, but you're probably going to have to go to a minor league team.
Oh, you have to.
And it's
Absolutely.
competitive. I don't quite think, and maybe it's good to be oblivious to it. How competitive. You were oblivious to
Oblivious,
it?
Yeah.
I
had
but you
no
gave
idea.
yourself 10 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It is, because I've been around minor league broadcast, like play-by-play guys who have been there for years.
Yeah.
It's so competitive. I don't think people understand, even Mariner fans understand, first of all, how difficult it is, how good you have to be. But you said it took you, 7, 8 years?
8 years.
Of just making no money, bus rides.
Yeah.
Is there any good memories, though, in that 8 years?
A lot of good memories.
Yeah.
A lot of good memories. First of all, getting my first job, my great buddy, John Dietrich, who I saw just the other day down here, we went to college together. He loves baseball and always wanted to be in the front office. He got a job as the Padres AA general manager in Alexandria, Louisiana in 1975. And he got me started in baseball. That's how I got into the minor leagues. 2 days after I graduated from SIU, I went to cover a baseball tournament in Tulsa. We lost the regional tournament, so I went home, drove all the way to Chicago from Tulsa after I graduated, woke my folks up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I had to actually take a pebble and throw it up against their bedroom window to wake me up, to wake them up to get in the house. So we sat in the kitchen for about an hour, and my dad goes, well, what are you going to do now? 4 years of college. I said, Dad, I'm going to start looking for a job, go to the stations in Chicago. And my mother said, after about an hour, my mom goes, some guy from Louisiana called. And I said, oh, yeah, that's probably John Dietrich. He's the GM down there. She said that he wants you to call him. I said, okay, I'll call tomorrow. She said, no. He said to call as soon as you got in, no matter what time it was. I said, Mom, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. She told me, John said to call him as soon as you got in.
Right.
So I called him at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, hey, John, what's up? He said, how'd you like to come down to Alexandria here? He said, I need a clubhouse guy. I said, what's that?
Right.
He said, well, I need a guy to wash the uniform, shine the shoes, take care of the visiting players here. My clubhouse guy quit. He said, you got a job up there? I said, no. He said, well, come on down. He said, I'll let you do 3 innings of play-by-play. I'll let you do the middle 3 innings. And I said, that sounds good. So I said, I'll find out what minor league baseball is all about. Yeah. He said, I'll pay you $200 a month. You live with a couple of the players. I go, oh, that's going to be great. I said, sure. I said, let me spend 2 days with my folks, and I'll be down there. So I spent 2 days with my mom and dad, drove down to Alexandria, Louisiana, had no idea where it was, And I thought it'd be just a summer job, and that was 45 years ago. I made $200 a month. I did 3 innings of play-by-play.
Was someone else doing the other 6 innings?
Yeah. Lynn Rollins was the announcer. He wasn't too happy I was there, but
I was going to ask. They had to be like, hey, who's this kid?
Guy, Yeah. We did a doubleheader, and I didn't realize there were 7-inning, doubleheaders or what it was, and I went too long, and he wasn't too happy with that. Anyway, I finally got my first. Oh, it was 9 innings, but I went too long, and I found out I really love this. Yeah. I really do, and I want to keep doing it. And then we moved the franchise from Alexandria to Amarillo, Texas. And I was there for 2 years with the Padres AA Farm Club. Then I went to Memphis, Tennessee with the Memphis Chicks. We were the AA team for the Montreal Expos in the Southern League. Those were long bus rides, Ryan.
Yeah.
Then I went to Columbus, Ohio with the Yankees AAA team. Finally started to fly a little bit in the International League. And then every year you send out a resume and tape like you do for any other type of job. And the Mariners liked my tape, and here I am in the big leagues. Thanks to Dave Niehaus. I love Mr. Niehaus.
I want to get to Dave in a second, but just going back to what was the guy's name who was already in the booth?
Lynn Rollins.
Okay, so you rock up. At that point, how long had he been in the minor leagues doing this for?
He had been there, I think, for about 3 or 4 years in Alexandria.
Was he an aspiring major league broadcaster?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you show up, and all of a sudden he's like,
who's this guy? Yeah.
Were you still doing the clubhouse duties at that point?
Yeah.
Or did you just start to skim that off?
Oh, no. I had to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, walk across the street. My apartment was right across the street. Get all the dirty laundry, the sweaty, smelly laundry, the uniforms, all of it, and put it into grocery carts and drag it across a gravel parking lot to my apartment complex, sit there and do all the laundry. I really made a mistake with the Shreveport Captains. They were the AA team for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So they had red stirrups and red sweatshirts, and I washed them. A couple snuck in with the underwear and the jock straps and everything. All their underwear came up pink, this bright pink. And so I went, oh, my gosh, what do I do now? So I hung it up in the lockers and waiting for the team to come in. Harry Safewright was a catcher I'll never forget this guy. He was ticked off. He said, what's this? I got a pink jock strap and pink. I said, nobody's going to see it. Put on your uniform and shut the heck up. I made 50 cents a day from the players, for the clubhouse dues. Wow. So that was my first job, yeah.
And just on that, were there any? There had to be those long nights where you're doing laundry and questioning, what am I doing with my life?
Oh yeah.
But there was still the fact that you're getting your 3 innings in.
Yeah.
Going, man, I love doing this.
Yeah.
And that's the takeaway from that. Basically, I love it, man. I'll do this to be able to do that.
Exactly. I just needed to start.
Yeah.
Everybody needs that first door to open.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the good Lord just blessed me saying, okay, you're here now. You're not going to be here in Alexandria, Louisiana for a long time. And I wasn't, just for a few months because we moved the team right after the season. But, yeah, it was a beginning, and I found out I really love this. And it was what I did in the basement of my house, doing a Chicago Cub game. It's what I did when I broadcast at Southern Illinois my junior and senior years. I found out this is what I want to do. I love it, and I've got to give it my best shot.
So 1983 rolls around.
Yeah.
You said, so every year you send out your tape and your resume.
Yeah.
And the tape is just basically, is that just like a highlight reel of all your good calls and stuff throughout them?
2 of them.
You didn't have the holy smokes at that point.
I did.
Oh, wow.
I did. Okay. And then I got the good.
Was that the hook?
Goodbye baseball.
Oh, man.
Oh, I don't. I sent in 2 tapes, and what I did was, and I think this is what all young broadcasters should do, I sent in a highlight tape, so your prospective employers can see what you do when you get excited. But I also did another tape with just 3 innings of play-by-play. 3 full innings of play-by-play, because as a broadcaster, you want to be listenable to. It's nice if you have a really good voice, but it's what you know and how you control the tempo and the flow of a ball game. People have to be able to listen to you for 3.5, 4 hours every night. So I sent the 3 innings of play-by-play, a highlight tape as well, and I think that really helped me out.
So the Mariners get a hold of this tape. Do they bring you? Do you have to audition? Do you have to go up and audition, or is it an interview process?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a funny story. It's a great story. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. Now it's 8 years in the minor leagues, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get an opportunity to
Is this
broadcast.
in season or off season?
This is the off season of 1982, and I'm with the Columbus Clippers. And I was the sports director at WBNS Radio in Columbus. And Ryan, I basically had two jobs. I was sports director, so every morning I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
I was out of the apartment by 4:30, drive downtown, get to the station at 5, on the air at 6. Every half hour we did a 5-minute newscast, and I did a 1-minute sportscast on each newscast up until 10 o'clock. And then I would go home and grab a little lunch or take a nap, go to the ballpark at 2 and do a game that night. Get home about 11 o'clock, midnight, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning again. For the last 4 years of the minor leagues, 2 years in Memphis, 2 years in Columbus, I got up at 4 o'clock every morning, and I did a game that night. I don't know how I did it, but I did. It's what I had to do. So anyway, I sent a resume and tape, and then the Mariners called me up. Melody Tucker is the director of broadcasting for the Seattle Mariners. And she tells me in January that I'm one of 2 finalists for the job. And I went, oh, my goodness. So I was to fly from Columbus, Ohio, to Santa Ana, California, to meet with the owner of the ball club, George Argyris. He was a developer in Southern California for Arnell Development and just bought the ball club the year before in 1981. So I was to meet with Mr. Argyris. Well, the night before I was to fly out from Columbus to Southern California to meet with Mr. Argyris, I went to a local mall for a cookie eating contest to kick off the Girl Scouts cookie campaign. So there were 8 radio and TV personalities that were in this cookie eating contest at this local mall in Columbus. I ate 33 cookies in 3 minutes, and I didn't even finish first. I finished in 3rd place. I got a big chocolate chip cookie from Mrs. Fields or something. Nice. And the next morning, later on in the morning, I was to fly out to Southern California. But I went to work in the morning at 4 o'clock, and about 7 o'clock in the morning, my chest was killing me. I thought I was having a heart attack. So I called the doctor, the team doc. I said, Doc, I don't feel so good. I got to fly to Southern California. You know, my chest is killing me. He said, get to the hospital right away. So I get to the hospital. They want to check me, see if I was having a heart attack. And he said, well, did you have anything to eat last night? I said, well, I went to this mall for the kickoff of the Girl Scouts cookie campaign, and I ate 33 cookies in 3 minutes. He said, what? What'd you do? I said, I ate 33 cookies in 3 minutes. I finished in 3rd place for the Girl Scouts. He says, oh, my God. He said, well, you probably stressed your sternum. He said, I got to do a couple of blood tests 4 or 5 hours apart. And I said, Doc, I got to fly to Southern California. He said, I can't let you go. So I had to call Melody Tucker with that blue smock on, with wires from the EKG machine on me.
Yeah.
And they had to wheel me out to the front desk on this gurney. No cell phones back in 1983. This is January of 83. So I called Melody.
When I was born, January 83.
Yeah,
there we go.
Outstanding. So I called Melody and said, Melody, I'm not going to make my meeting. She said, why not? And I said, I went to a cooking contest with the Girl Scouts, and then I stressed my sternum. I'm not going to be able to leave. So she goes, I'll call Mr. Argyris. She said, call me back in half an hour. Call back in half an hour. She said, can you be there tomorrow morning? I said, I will rip these wires off me. I will be there tomorrow morning. So anyway, the next morning, I don't go to a cooking contest the night before that night. So I fly to Southern California. Yeah, I fly to Southern California, and I get my opportunity to sit down with George Argyris at his desk in his big office there in Southern California. And we're talking for about an hour about my career and everything, and where I grew up and broadcasting in the minor leagues, why you think you're a good broadcaster and everything. So then he looks at me, Ryan, and he points his finger at me and wags his finger at me like this, back and forth, said, now, why did you miss your meeting yesterday? And I said, well, Mr. Argyris, I went to a cooking eating contest for the Girl Scouts campaign to kick it off, and I ate 33 cookies in 3 minutes. I stressed my sternum. We laughed about it. We talked about another 5 minutes.
Just on that, you're honest with him.
Yeah.
Was there ever that thought of saying, no, hey, I had the flu or something?
Oh, no.
Because you were embarrassed about the cookies?
Honesty is the best policy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it was
Be
funny.
yourself, right? Yeah.
So he wags his finger at me, and he goes, now, why did you miss your meeting yesterday? I go, oh, my gosh. I said, well, the Girl Scouts had their cookie campaign, and I had 33 cookies in 3 minutes. So we laughed about it. So 5 minutes later, he concludes the interview, and he looks at me, Ryan. He puts his hand across his desk, shakes my hand. He says, anybody willing to risk his life for the Girl Scouts is my kind of guy. Welcome aboard. And I got the job. So I got the Girl Scouts to thank for myself getting to the big leagues with the Seattle Mariners.
Awesome. And at what point? Now, talking about Dave, was Dave a household name at that point?
Oh, yeah.
In 1983?
Oh, yeah. He had been 6 years the lead voice for the Mariners. He and Kenny Wilson were the first two announcers in 1977. Kenny left to go to Chicago to do, I think, Blackhawks hockey, and he eventually did baseball as well with the Reds. He called Pete Rose's, base hit that broke Ty Cobb's record. But there was an opening, and he left at the end of the 82 season with a few games left, and we had a backup catcher when I was with the Columbus Clippers by the name of Bruce Robinson. He had a friend who lived in Seattle and heard that the Mariners would be looking for a new announcer. Because of Bruce Robinson, he told me, he said, Rick, why don't you apply for the job in Seattle? I did. And I can't thank Dave Niehaus enough because he listened to my tape. He had an impact.
Dave listened to your tape?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
He had a big say at that point.
He had a huge say
on who was going to be sitting next to him.
Exactly. Wow. For 162 games and doing about 30, 40 games on TV. We didn't do that many games on TV, but he had a great say in who was going to be his partner. So I can't thank him enough. I love him so much, miss him dearly. He got me there as a young broadcaster in 1983. Another story, I go to Detroit after 9 years. That didn't work out after 3 years, and he got me back in 1995. So I owe Dave Niehaus everything.
So when was the first conversation with him? Did he call you and say welcome in the off season? Yeah.
No. First time I saw him, he was obviously instrumental in narrowing it down to the two guys who interviewed with George Ardress. So I get the job with George. Instead of flying home to Columbus, he flew me up to Seattle the next day. So I had never met Dave Niehaus, nor have I ever talked to him. Finally, I talked to him on the phone when I got to Seattle. And Melody Tucker was taking me around town to look for an apartment and everything. We had meetings with...
Must have been an exciting time for you.
KVI. Oh,
man, you think
pins
about...
and needles, buddy.
People... For me, I took 6.5 years in the minor leagues to get to the big leagues. And just in that situation, I'm like, man, I could be here for a day. Matter of fact, when I first went up to the big leagues, I didn't pitch. I got sent back down. I'm like, oh, man, that's going to be my story. I'm going to be the dude who goes up, doesn't pitch, and back down. But it's just that those moments in time where that's etched in stone in your head because there you are cruising around looking for an apartment in Seattle. You're about to be a major league broadcaster it's just it must have been an amazing 48 hours for you.
It was a whirlwind. Here I am
with a stomach ache. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I finally was okay, after getting rid of the stress sternum. But I finally got a chance to meet Dave Niehaus. We met at a pizza place, Pietro's Pizza in Bellevue, near where he lived. And I met him for the very first time, and he was so gracious, so kind, a wonderful mentor, and we became great friends. His wife, Marilyn, his entire family. I watched his kids grow up, So
he wasn't like old Lenny down in AA.
Oh, no.
Who's threatened.
Oh, no, not at all. He was looking for a partner. Right. He wanted somebody. Len was going in 1975, like, what are you doing here? Dave wanted me there, and he was instrumental in getting me there. But I watched Greta grow up, and Matt and Andy, and I became a part of his family. He became a part of my family. My son Nick was only 3 years old at the time we drove into Seattle after we went back to Columbus, moved back to Seattle. But I looked at him and I listened to that voice. I go, oh my gosh, this voice is from baseball heaven, And then our first broadcast in 1983, I go, oh my goodness, this guy is really, really good. And
so there's that intimidation factor.
Oh my goodness!
Are you talking spring training at Tempe, or are you talking the first?
Both,
right? At
spring training, I heard that voice, low ball one. I go, I can't get that. I can't do that. But Dave's in the Hall of Fame and deserves to be there, winning in 2008. But I could not have asked for a better mentor, teacher, counselor, friend than Dave Niehaus.
And I'm putting you on the spot here, but what are probably the top three things, even if they're the most broad statements, that Dave taught you in the early days?
Well, number one, I learned a valuable lesson right away. He said, just be yourself. Don't try to copy anybody. A lot of guys try to copy Vin Scully. And here's a 2-2 pitch, swung on and built it. And you can't do that. He said, be yourself. Dave was himself. He's a great storyteller. The other thing he taught me, Ryan, was that if it's a bad game, it doesn't have to be a bad broadcast. We're here to entertain the
Right.
fans. And I learned check your ego at the door.
Yep.
You know, fans don't care about what kind of day you've had, and we all have our own hard times up and down, but when we do this job, fans rely on us.
Yeah.
And he taught me that lesson. And then he taught me a valuable lesson. You know, the opening game, my first game, I was so excited, so hepped up and everything. And we're playing the New York Yankees, and it's Gaylord Perry against Ron Guidry, and there's 40,000 people at the Kingdom. The next day we'd have about 7,000.
And you're coming
But
off,
opening
again,
day,
I'll say this again, 8 years of AA,
the minor
AAA
leagues.
baseball. It must have been
doing the games all by myself
overwhelming.
for 8 years.
Right.
So now I'm with Dave Niehaus, and Dave, of course, is doing the first 2 innings. I do the third. He did 4 or 5. I did 6, 7. So he starts off the broadcast, and I'm going, wow, this guy's awesome. And then after every pitch, I'm jumping in there. Yeah, Gaylord's really pumped up today. His fastball, maybe only about 86 miles an hour right now, but he's locating his fastball. Here's the windup of the pitch, and it's low ball too. And Gaylord's looking good out there. Willie Randolph's leading off for the Yankees, and I'm coming in after every pitch, saying
Hair
something
on
because I'm
fire.
so excited. My hair's on fire, man. You're not kidding. So then after about an inning. I'm doing this. He turned off his mic. He turned off my mic, and he says, "You don't have to talk after every pitch." I go, "Okay, David, no problem." Oh, I was like secretariat out of the gate. I was 31
awesome.
laps in front of everybody, and I learned a very valuable lesson.
That's
You're
awesome.
on radio. Let the man do his job, and I learned a lesson in a hurry.
Right. It's interesting you said about the be yourself part. We had at games, you and me, I filled in for someone. We're in Anaheim playing the Angels 2016, and I was nervous because I'm sitting next to you, and I've always felt comfortable doing stuff with you, and that's one thing you do really well in the booth.
Thank you.
Everyone, well, I'll get to that in a
Check
second.
the ego at the door.
Check your ego, absolutely. But I was still nervous because you want to be. I'm trying to add from a player's point of view,
Right.
not step on toes, all the technical things that you got to keep up with. Don't talk over the pitch, all these little things.
Yeah.
But the one thing you said to me right before I was about to go on air, hey, just be yourself. Because there's so many times I fall in that trap where I'm trying to sound pro. I'm trying to sound like someone else, to sound legitimate. And you said that to me, and it was just that ease of saying, okay, just be myself, see the game.
Yeah.
This is who I am, and go from there. I've never forgotten that. And as simple as that sounds, you can forget that sometimes, but you're right though. I mean, when you just yourself and you're relaxed and calm, that's when I feel like I sound the best, and when everyone sounds the best.
Yeah, I'll take care of the play-by-play part. I'm going to get you in. It's not about me; it's about us. In the broadcast. And I would listen to Dave, and I would make sure that he was done, and then I would say something if I had something to add.
Yeah.
Especially when he had the great call of Edgar's double. I waited and I waited and I waited. He had the greatest call in the history of this franchise. And then I jumped in, pandemonium here in the Kingdom, 55,000 people going crazy. But I made sure he was done. My job is make the color analyst, you, Mike Blowers right now, or Dave Henderson, who was amazing for many years, and my first one, Wes Stock many years ago, or Nellie Bryles or Joe Simpson, whoever I was working with, be a part of the broadcast.
Yeah.
Tee it up for him. And I wanted to make you comfortable. I wanted you to be you. I wanted to be you to be Ryan Rowland-Smith, the ex-pitcher, because the fans don't know what it's like to stand out there in the mound, and what it's like. You can give them that that vantage point, from the broadcast booth. So I would tee it up for you, and you were great.
Another thing you do really well, and again, I know there's different techniques with TV and radio, painting the picture of what's happening.
Yeah.
You can sit, I can drive around if I'm not at the ballpark and listen and say, and I get that image in my head. When you're talking about techniques and from a different generation, I feel like, and you can jump in here on this too, a lot of that's lost. Again, TV, the game speaks for itself, but I've been told, hey, let the game will tell you what's happening, but it's still nice to sort of paint that picture.
You have to.
Yeah, and even... Yeah, and you mentioned Vince Scully earlier and Dave Niehaus, some of the greats.
The best.
Even on TV. Because, back when I was first coming up as a rookie, I'd get done pitching, and all of a sudden I'd flick on the game, and Dave would do a little bit of TV, so I'd catch him on TV, or I'd catch him on the radio, and you as well. And Vince Scully was doing TV. But the ability to, one, give some sort of biography on the dude pitching so you can learn something. But I feel like there's a little bit of that loss. And again, I understand analytics and everything. Everyone wants to talk about these numbers and everything else. But from a technical standpoint, what are some of the things that if I'm a young broadcaster, how would you teach, whether they're doing TV and radio?
Yeah.
Like some of the big things you would give them, besides obviously be yourself.
Yeah.
But from a technical standpoint of getting a feel for the game.
What you have to remember as a young broadcaster or even a veteran broadcaster is you're doing the game on the radio. And the biggest compliment that I could get or you could get or any broadcaster is somebody come up to you and say, hey, listen, what you do is you make me feel like I'm at T-Mobile Park or the Kingdome or Fenway Park in Boston. You have to be their eyes and ears. And when the game gets exciting, those little hairs in the back of their necks will stand up. But long before the first pitch is made, this is a colorful game. You got to mention color. When you say the color, the bright green grass of the infield and outfield, the powder blue sky without a cloud in the sky hovering over the Peoria Sports Complex, the wind blowing in from the left field corner to the right field corner. Now they're at the ballpark. You painted the picture with broad strokes, okay? Now you made them feel like they're there. They can even feel that cool breeze at, 65 miles an hour.
Right.
Or 65 degrees coming across at 10 miles an hour. You put them at the ballpark. So the words that you use, the phrases that you use, paint the picture. Your imagination, Ryan, to this day is better than any camera ever invented if we do our jobs right.
Yeah.
And if you can put them in the front row seat at the ballpark, wherever ballpark you're broadcasting, then we're doing our jobs. But you have to remind the folks, color is vivid. Mm-hmm. Mention that green grass. Mention that navy blue batter's eye with the yellow stripe 10 feet high. Anything over that stripe is a home run. Now they can see it.
Gotcha.
Now they can see it. The big scoreboard out in left center field, the bright green grass of the berm in left field and right field, our American flag out in right field, unfurled, blowing out towards center field. It's going to be a windy day this afternoon. The words that we use will paint the picture, and now they have a landscape that we can put the words over the top of, and now they can see the game on the radio. After every broadcast, Ryan, I say, we'll see you on the radio tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for the pregame show, because that's what we do. We make people see it right here. I'm pointing to my head, right here in our minds.
Right.
It's theater of the mind. Baseball is theater. Theater, you have a stage. In baseball, we have a field. In theater, we have an audience. In baseball, we have our fans. In theater, we have a director. In baseball, we have a manager. And then the only difference, though, between theater and baseball is in theater, you have a script. Mm-hmm. The actors, we got the actors. In baseball, we have the players. Yeah. But we don't have a script.
Yeah.
We have a blank page, and we get a chance to write that script from the first pitch to the last pitch, ad-lib it, and we rely on our experience to fill in those pages, and hopefully at the end of the day, it's a wonderful book.
Yeah. No, it's it's a skill, obviously. Not everyone can do that.
It takes
it's
time.
Definitely a skill. But, just from watching TV, listening to radio, especially during the playoffs, usually the playoffs, they'll give those games to, it's a national broadcast, so they kind of try and give it. But I just feel like when you can hear something from that older style of painting the picture, I feel like there's still a little bit of that lost now in 2020 as you watch. But just going back to, you got enough time? You good?
I got plenty of time.
Okay, good. I
got plenty of time. No. Let's keep going.
Okay, so going back to your time in the Mariners, 1983, you and Dave hit it off.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go.
Right from the beginning.
So then 1992, I believe, rolls around, and then an opportunity comes up with the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
So talk me through that. What was for you, looking at that opportunity, how'd that come about, and what was the motivation there for you?
That was a really tough time in my life. I really didn't know what I was getting into. But the Detroit Tigers had a Hall of Fame broadcaster, and everybody loved the man, Ernie Harwell. Mm-hmm. He was there, Dave Niehaus, and already in the Hall of Fame. There was new ownership in Detroit, and and a new leader, the president of the ball club, was Bo Schembechler, who was the longtime successful head football coach at the University of Michigan. And for some reason, they wanted to get Ernie Harwell out of the booth. They wanted some younger voices and everything. It was a bad idea. Mm-hmm. So Ernie's last year was going to be the 1991 season. So it was out there that the Tigers would be looking for a new broadcaster, and Dave said, "Hey, why don't you apply for it? You know, your goal is to be a number one broadcaster." And I said, "Yeah, that would be something, a storied franchise, Detroit. I love Tiger Stadium." I met with Ernie Harwell. Ernie, that year in 1991, said, "Rick, I want you to apply for my job." And there was so much fewer.
So he reached out to you.
He
and
reached
said,
out to me.
Wow.
Ernie told me to apply for the job. He said, "You've been in the big leagues for 9 years now. You could do this." And I said, "Ernie," I feel sorry for the poor son of a gun who's got to replace you. It is going to be tough."
Yeah.
The whole town was up in arms. They were ticked off that Ernie was going to be leaving after that year. But then I thought, well, if Ernie was going to leave and I knew he was going to be gone, maybe I'll do it. So I applied for the job. And sure enough, I got it. You know, I was the guy to replace a legend in Detroit, Ernie Harwell. It turned out to be a real difficult situation. The fans had a rough time getting used to me.
Because no matter what,
I wasn't Ernie Harwell.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult. Then they started to come around. But then the ball club was sold. Mike Ilitch bought the team from Tom Monahan. And Mr. Ilitch, after the 92 season, wanted to bring Ernie back. And he had a meeting with myself and Bob Rathman, who also came in to be my new broadcaster in 1992. And he said, "Hey, fellas, can we bring Ernie back and get through all this?" I said, 1 year? He said, "Yeah, just 1 year." And I said, "Okay, let's do this." So we brought Ernie back for the 1993 season. He did 3 innings of play-by-play. I did 1 and 2, 8 and 9. They wanted Bob Rathman to do just pre- and post-game shows.
So basically, you were back in the same situation you were in Seattle, now in Detroit, where Ernie was basically your new Dave in a sense.
Yeah, but he only did 3 innings of play-by-play. Just 3, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And they wanted Bob to only do pre- and post-game shows. I said, this guy didn't work 10 years in the minor leagues, just do pre- and post-game shows. I gave him 2 innings. He did the 6th and 7th.
Yep.
And we got through that year. It was really difficult, to be honest with you. And then Ernie retired again, and then along came 1994. And then the strike hit in August of 1994. It was a rainy day. The day just kind of fit the gloom of what was happening with Major League Baseball at the time. And so baseball came to a screeching halt. A week before Christmas of 1994, I called Dave, and I said, "Dave, something's going to happen. This is not going to work out here for me after 3 years here. I just knew something was going to happen." A week before Christmas, Ryan, the Tigers tell me they don't want me to do any more play-by-play. They won't let me go, but they don't want me to do play-by-play. They say, I go, "What do you mean? You know, we can still have you do pre- and post-game shows." I go, "No, I got a contract for 6 innings of play-by-play. I had to hire Kevin Krement's brother, who was a great lawyer in Tulsa, to get me out of the contract," which I eventually did. I finally left after that 3rd year. Dave Niehaus, Chuck Armstrong, Randy Adamek, Kevin Kremen. I love these guys. They were able to get me back after my 3 long years in Detroit, and I owe them everything. And thank God I came back when I did, because I didn't miss the 1995 season.
Right.
That was the year that saved baseball, Major League Baseball in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
So it was a difficult situation, replacing a legend. I found out the hard way. You don't want to be the guy to replace the legend. You want to be the guy to try to replace the guy who tried to replace the legend, you know. But I was back in Seattle, happy, and I've been back ever since.
Right. And you said too, timing is everything. 94 then rolled into 95. Was that the most memorable
Yes.
162 games?
Well, it's 144 games that year because we started late.
That's right.
We didn't start back until I want to say April 26th, and thank goodness you guys came back, man, because we were going to start the year right here at Peoria. We had the replacements working out, and we were going to start the season with replacement players.
So you must have been going into 1995 thinking fans are upset. This is going to be a dud.
Yeah.
You know, what's happened to baseball, all these things. And then you fast forward to one of the most the biggest year in really
what a
in the
turnaround.
history of the Mariners.
What a 180, because we're watching these guys. We had a guy, on our ball club, the replacement team, John Sukalis. I'll never forget his name. Maybe he's listening to the podcast right now. He was a waiter at Billy McHale's restaurant in Factoria Mall, or in Factoria Square.
Yeah.
And we had all these guys, in a Major League uniform. Of course, not Major League players running around bumping into each other. And thank goodness it didn't happen, that we were able to start the season when we did.
Yeah.
Lou Piniella told Dave and I before the last game here, and we're getting ready to go to Dunedin, Florida to start the year to play the Toronto Blue Jays, because we wouldn't be able to play. The union workers wouldn't allow everybody to cross the lines at the Sky Dome. It was Sky Dome at the time. And so we're getting ready to go to Dunedin to start the year. Anyway, Lou said, if I leave the game in the 7th inning, something good may happen. So Dave and I are doing the game with Kevin Kremen right here in this booth in Peoria. And we saw Lou leave, walk down that first base line all the way down to the clubhouse, and we go, what's going on? We found out the strike had been settled, thank goodness. Yeah. We gave all the replacement guys a barbecue dinner from Don and Charlie's. We thanked them very much for their service. And a week later, the guys came in. We had our team back. And we got going with the season, 144-game season. Then we were tied at the end. We had the one-game playoff with the Angels, and then the great series against the Yankees.
Well, just back to the replacement players. What were these guys going to be getting paid?
$5,000.
Really?
$5,000.
And where'd they come from?
They came from everywhere. They tried out.
Because
we had a guy, Ryan, who was a reliever, Dave Graybill. Never forget his name. He was a fireman here in Glendale. And he would work a night shift and then come out here. He was our closer and pitch for us. And then one night, this is a true story, he saved 2 little girls in a fire, pulled them out of a fire, then came out here and got a save. And I said, he had a better save last night than he did this afternoon. Right. He saved 2 little girls out of a fire. I mean, this is the kind. These are the kind of guys that
crazy.
Where they do love the game of baseball. We had a couple of minor league kids. That
but if you're in
no
the minor leagues, though, if you did cross,
you were done.
You were done.
You were done. You were done.
Man, what a time.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, not to take anything away from the end of 1995 in Seattle, amazing. But you go back to that time of the year.
We went from that all the way to the guys coming back and getting to the playoffs for the first time in our history. Edgar hitting that double and saving baseball in Seattle.
Yeah, it's funny. And every generation of people in Seattle, when you say you work with the Mariners, 2 things come up: 1995 and 2001, obviously, with the the wins. But it's amazing because I'm talking to the voice of the Mariners right now. The memories aren't so much about. The memories are more about being on a freeway on an interstate with the car, the stereo blaring, and everyone high-fiving each other in traffic.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Because, and again, with the Mariners and, the not being in the playoffs for so long, but when you hear that stuff, I mean, I heard this stuff as a player, 1995, 2001. I mean, you see those things as a player. Obviously, I'm not from Seattle, but so you see the highlights of it, like, oh wow, yeah, they were good back then. But then it starts seeping in what that meant to fans and the sounds and everything, which is just tattooed in their brain of what that meant to that city.
Yeah, it was everything. It was everything. Dave and I said for years, because get this, the Mariners from 1977 didn't have their first winning season until 1991. Which was 15 years. It took 15 years to finally not be a losing franchise. When we won our 82nd game in Texas at the end of the season, Dave and I and Kevin went into the clubhouse. You can ask Alvin Davis this. We saw Alvin, we saw Dave Valley, Harold Reynolds, and we were emotional. Everybody had tears in their eyes because for the first time we were winners. We had an outfielder by the name of Tracy Jones. He had played with the Cincinnati Reds. And Tracy was walking around. I saw Tracy. He says, "What's going on here? We won 82 games." I said, "You don't understand. This is the first year we have become a winning franchise." Now along comes 1995, and Dave and I for years said, all our community needs is a winning franchise, a winning ball club to rally around, and the fans will show up. You know, we had a lot of sparse crowds in 1977 for many, many years. We needed to give them something to go crazy about. And finally, here comes 1995. And now at the end of the season, we weren't really drawing that well. But now in September, we started winning, 13.5 games out of first place. The Angels started losing. Now we're getting 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. 55,000 people for the first time
ever. That's amazing.
Unless it was opening night, and then the next night would be 7,000.
Yeah.
You know, years before that. But we fans finally got a chance to go crazy. In 2001 and 2002, Ryan, when the ball club won 116 games with a young man who came over from Japan who we had no idea was going to be a great player and a future Hall of Famer, Ichiro. Brett Boone had an incredible season, and Mike Cameron and John Olerud and Freddie Garcia and Jamie Moyer. We won 116 games. We drew 3.5 million fans. The next year, we drew 3.5 million fans. We outdrew every team in Major League Baseball for 2 years up in our little burb up in the Pacific Northwest. And we have the best fans in baseball. We need to give them something to go crazy about again, and we will.
Two things on that real quick. When you're sitting here, we're in Peoria. So it's spring training 2001. If you can go back to that, obviously Ichiro coming in.
Yeah.
There was a buzz, but not really, because he didn't tear it up in spring training at all. Even like Lou Pinella's like, who's this guy?
Exactly.
And then you're looking at your team. Are you looking at that team going, man, we're going to win a lot of games this year? Or are you looking like, we'll see how this goes?
Ask Lou Piniella.
Like John Hallam, Jamie Moyer throwing 83 miles an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We had great starting pitching.
Yeah.
You know, Jamie Moyer and Freddie Garcia, and Ryan Franklin, a young Joel Pinheiro. We had guys that could pitch and knew how to win. And we looked around. Even Lou Piniella didn't know what he had. Dave Niehaus did a pregame show with him before one of the games down here at spring training. He said, who's the best team in the American League West? Lou said the Texas Rangers. Kevin Kremen edited that out of the pregame show interview. You know, you can't have your manager say the Texas Rangers are the best team in baseball. And then the Mariners, we go on and win 116 games, more than any team in the history of the game of baseball. But it was a great team. You know, Pat Gillick traded away after Woody Woodward left, traded away Jr. to the Cincinnati Reds. You got Mike Cameron and Brett Tomko.
That's where I was going with that. You do make that move. You trade away Ken Griffey Jr. So all of a sudden,
the best player in baseball.
Yeah, there has to be that residual effect of this franchise doesn't care about winning or blah blah blah, whatever it may be. This team's not going to be good when you give up a player like that. You know, once in a generation, lifetime player. Like it's just. Because I was in rookie ball in 2001. I was on the field 20 down here.
Yeah.
And I remember looking over, going, "Oh man, look at the big league team! Wow, you know." And at that point, I was living in the Hampton Inn across the street over here. And you turn on SportsCenter. The Mariners were on SportsCenter every night about how good they are and the best team. But I'm like, "Oh man, this franchise."
We won 20 games in April, 20 games in May.
I'm in rookie ball with this team. Like I felt proud of that. You know, it was unreal. And then 2002, my first game ever at Safeco, now T-Mobile Park. I walked in on a Tuesday night. I was playing for the Everett Aqua Sox. Tuesday night against the Detroit Tigers, who lost 100 games that year. Place is packed.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, look at this.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
That's what happens when you win.
Yeah.
And without 3 future Hall of Famers, because Randy Johnson had been traded away and Alex Rodriguez signed as a free agent in the trade of Ken Griffey Jr., you know, Pat Gillick put together a winning team. Got John Olerud over at first. Brett Boone came off an injury. I think he was with Atlanta the year before and had an incredible year. Carlos Guillen at short and David Bell over at third base. Dan Wilson was still there with the ball club. Edgar Martinez, our DH, and Jay Buhner was still there. Mike Cameron in center field. And we had a number of guys in left field, but we had a solid pitching staff. And Norm Charlton was still figuring out to get people out in the bullpen. He was amazing in 95, and he came back, I think, for about the third time. But it was just an amazing ball club that knew how to win, who played the game right, got off to the incredible start, the 20 wins in April, 20 wins in May, and they just kept winning. I think they won 19 games, in June. But it was so much fun. I don't think they lost back-to-back games until August. That's how good they were. Mark McLemore,
unreal.
Played all over the place. He said, "Don't call me a utility player. I'm an everyday player that plays different positions."
Yep.
He was at shortstop. He was at second
he was in
base.
the lineup every day.
He was in the lineup every day. So it was an incredible run, and the fans really turned out. 3.5 million fans up in Seattle, and we're going to get back there.
Rick, and I want to wrap. You've got a game to call here and pretty soon, so I don't want to keep you too long here.
I'm having fun.
But
I'm good.
We've talked a lot about these memories and obviously this job. And I hear this from other people, from other organizations and stuff. Oh, well, hey, this job's easy when you're winning, and it's not so easy when you're losing. For me, look, I'm still pretty fresh to this. I love it. Like in the off season, I'm doing some other stuff, with kids and stuff back in Australia. I love doing that. Yeah. But man, yesterday, rolling into the ballpark, sitting in between you and Gary yesterday, I left yesterday just thinking, man, just charged up, ready to go. Loved it. What for you? It's 2020. You've been doing this for so long.
45 years.
45 years. What drives you? Is it just the complete fact that you love doing this? I mean, you've witnessed some bad teams throughout the years. I've been on a couple of them. So I apologize for that. 2010, years like that. But regardless, when I came back, 2015, I came back to say hi to you guys, and I have you to thank, actually. Bullpen banter, you got me involved in that.
Yeah, I got
as
you
a
involved.
player.
I started your career, buddy.
I loved it. I was like, man, this is a blast. No, seriously. And I came back, and you were very welcoming when I came back. I was like, I think this is what I want to do. And you've made it the transition
Good.
So easy just with the positivity.
I saw you wanted to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. But for you, at this stage in your career, 45 years later, you've been through good seasons, bad seasons. You had Dave. Now you've been through a lot. What is it in 2020 coming in? You still have the same enthusiasm I've witnessed. Yeah. What is it for you?
Ryan, I still love what I do, and I still love the preparation. I work hard. In the morning when I get up, I do all my notes.
Yeah.
When I get to the ballpark at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I do my notes. I want to be prepared. I don't want to let the fans down. I want to know what's going on. I want to know who's available down to the bullpen, who's not. If a lefty comes up and left-handed hitter comes up and we don't bring in a lefty, maybe he's got to sit Arthur Rhodes down because he pitched 4 days in a row or something or whatever. But I still love the preparation. But I'm after all these years, after 45 years, I love what I do. I've been blessed by the good Lord to be able to do this and make a career out of it. But I feel like I'm still that 12-year-old kid in my basement, doing Cub games, Because
I'm talking, it's sixth inning, we're down by 7 runs, and you got some random people coming in that radio booth that you've never met before, and you turn around and treat them like as if they're sitting next to you with the headphones on. Well, I'm just saying it's very unique, and that's what I'm trying to pull from you.
I get that from my mom and dad. Treat everybody with respect. Right. Be nice, smile to them, acknowledge them, say hello to them, make them feel a part of whatever it is you're doing. And I try to make a fan one at a time, and they tell somebody, hey, I met Rick and blah blah blah. But as far as this goes, Ryan, I still love it. Hopefully I can still stick around here for a few more years and watch this team get to the playoffs and get to the World Series. But every day, I never take this for granted. I'm still having fun after all these years. I asked Vince Scully years ago, how long do you want to do this? And he said, as long as my wife allows me to leave the house, and I still love what I can do, and I can do it at the level that I want to do it. He says, I'm going to keep doing it. And he did it up until I think he was 87 or 88 years of age, 67 years behind the microphone, all with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers franchise. So I can say that I'm living my dream, and I love every moment of it.
Well, Rick, this has been a lot of fun. Hopefully we get to do it during the regular season if you come on again. But
anytime you want, buddy.
This show was brought to you by Mrs. Fields and the Girl Scout cookies. So I've got a giant cookie for you. Did you ever eat that cookie or what?
I didn't eat that cookie. I don't know whatever happened to that cookie, but I still buy Girl Scout cookies. I love the trefoils or whatever they're called, the shortbread cookies. And
how many cookies was it in how many minutes?
33 cookies in 3 minutes.
You know what? You've got those 33 cookies.
You can drink milk, too.
Oh, you can drink milk. Oh, nice. Yeah. Sweet. But you really have those to thank because you had that nice little icebreaker. Yeah. With the guy who's trying to hire you.
Exactly. It was very helpful to me. We laughed about it, and he said, anybody willing,
George separator.
Anybody willing to sacrifice his life for the Girl Scouts is my kind of guy. So that's how he got the job.
Rick, this has been fun, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks.
Great
Thanks
job, buddy.